Hey Pikachu, it's time to hang out with Gateway to Anime! Gotta catch 'em all.
We had the absolute pleasure of interviewing Veronica Taylor, most famous for being the original English voice of Ash Ketchum. Her resume is extraordinary and one of the most varied and versatile in the industry. Veronica is a classically trained actor and voice actor of video games, anime, and audiobooks in the United States. Just some of her anime credits include Amelia in Slayers, young Griffith in Berserk, Ayami in Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress, the original Nico Robin in One Piece, Sailor Pluto in the 2015 Sailor Moon and Sailor Moon Crystal, Executioner Boss in Akudama Drive, Ariel in So I'm a Spider, So What, and the Mother in Grave of the Fireflies, amongst many, many others. She was also the voice of April O'Neil in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Just some of her video game credits include Valkyrie Profile, Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, Final Fantasy, LA Noire, Fire Emblem Heroes and Three Houses as Manuela, and Nier Replicant, also amongst many, many others. We had such a great time chatting to Veronica. She was one of the most generous, kind, and friendly people we've ever met, and we hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we did. Well, hello, and welcome back to Gateway to Anime. How are y'all? What's going on? Charlie, what's happening?
I am very, very excited today because we have got an incredibly special guest with us that we are beyond excited to interview. So without further ado, I'm fine, but let's introduce our very special guest, Veronica Taylor.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Veronica is a very prolific voice actor and does a lot of work in anime and games, most famously known for voicing course, Ash Ketchum in the original Pokémon series. I'm so excited. Please, if you want to give us a little bit of a rundown.
Yeah, so I'm an actor. I do a lot of voice-related work. I guess the most well-known thing I've worked on is Pokemon. I played Ash, Ash's mom, and May in the first 8 seasons. I've done a lot of Saturday morning type cartoons. I've done a lot of anime. I work on a lot of audiobooks. Gosh, any kind of voice-related thing I work on. In a day, I have, so many different jobs. And I've never had one job at a time. So it's always a kind of a melange of sorts.
That's interesting. So, I won't read your resume because that would take the entire podcast.
People can find all of that. What's past is past.
Exactly.
We were on
right.
IMDb last night being like, wow, you've done so many things.
Oh, my Lord. How did you first get into voice acting? So you're a classically trained actor.
Yeah.
And then, so tell us how this first began. How did you first get into the industry?
So in my tiny step back, I started acting when I was 5. I was in a play, and that's when I decided to be an actor. Mm-hmm. And I did every show I could do in school. I toured the United States with 3 different acting companies. Right. I've done classical, contemporary, and children's theater. Right. I went to college. I have a bachelor's in acting, and I went to grad school. I have a master's in acting. Oh, wow. And then I moved to New York City. I was working with an acting coach, and I had an audition for something. We were working on a monologue, and it just happened that day he got a call from someone else he coached to say, can you recommend someone to do a high-pitched girl's voice for this anime? I went, I booked that, and then they said, can you audition for this? And then things just kind of started rolling from there. Right. I also did the voiceover for the Batman stunt show at Six Flags Great Adventure. Right. And I was in the stunt show, and because I was in it, they auditioned those of us who were. And that voice was used in all the Six Flags parks for the Batman shows. So I suppose that was one of my first kind of recorded voiceover jobs.
Right. How much of your acting process from being a classically trained theatre actor, do you bring to your voice acting? Is it a different process, or is it much the same? How does it differ?
I really think that's a great question, because unfortunately the answer's not so easy, but I think that my acting training plays a part in every single thing that I do. Because I'm saying so much. I'm going to try not to do that, but that's where I am in my thinking. I'm filling the space. When you are working on a play, you have the luxury of rehearsing. You have the luxury of going through your script, marking everything down, figuring out your objectives, all of that stuff. When you are working in voiceover, you have no time. You're often handed the script that minute.
Oh, wow.
When we were working on Pokemon, we would get the script, walk in, start looking at the screen, and you hear 3 beeps in your headphones, and then you start. So sometimes we would watch what was originally there in Japanese, and sometimes, most of the time, we would not. So what you are doing is looking at the lines, skimming through, figuring out what the scene's about, what the person wants from you, and then what you want from them in about 2 seconds.
Wow.
So without my training, I don't think I would have been as facile with that because you can make up what you want in a second because you understand how scenes work.
Yes, of course.
So it's not like I rehearse things. When I worked on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we did have a rehearsal, but we didn't talk through the scenes. We didn't do anything. We just worked out timing in a way. And then we went in and recorded. Wow. But other than that, mostly everything I work on is split second. You see it right then and you do it.
Wow.
With audiobooks, I do read the whole book. I mark through the characters and then I act out the whole thing.
Right,
so that's another way of working in scene work, but you get to play all the characters and you're just kind of easing through in a way. I don't know. It's all quite imaginative.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, I mean, at the end of the day, it is all just acting, isn't it? It's just a different way in which you channel it.
I think without being an actor, obviously people get voice acting jobs, so who knows what. I mean, I'm a big fan of Bluey. Those children, I doubt they've had any voice acting or acting classes, and they are amazingly wonderful and natural. So that's one side of it.
Yes.
And the adults are really great too. But on the other side of it, acting requires your full body and your full mind.
Yes.
And once you have training, you're able to use that in ways that you can't if you don't understand yourself.
Yeah.
Let's call it like this.
No,
I had to explain to Charlie before, please finish my sentence because I'm a little like in a time warp here in Australia. Anyway, you do need to be able to use your whole self in all that you do. And it's kind of, I think in any profession that's creative, you have to tap into your creativity.
Yes.
And why not? Because you sell yourself short if you're not fully invested, I guess.
Yeah.
I've always been interested in terms of how anime voiceover acting goes with dubbing and having to match up with the timing, everything like that. How much is that kind of something that plays into your character work? Do you have to listen to the Japanese voice actor before or do you get to do your own thing entirely, or does it vary with different companies?
It definitely varies. And I think it varies in time because back in the 2000s, the aughts, we'd never listened to the original. We really, we would just get in and fly with it. So you could create a little bit more of your own. And certainly on parts that were hard to understand or to figure out what they were really going for, we would definitely listen to the original because that is the original and the best. But when you're trying to create something for an English-speaking audience, you can't fully cater to what came before because it doesn't play all the time.
Yeah.
On the flip side, nowadays with anime I'm working on, they seem to be very strict to adhere to exactly what the Japanese did.
Right.
Most of that, we have to listen. If, sometimes you see the lip flap and there's a little sound or a little opening or some movement and you want to, as the actor, fill it. And if it's not in the original, we're not allowed to do anything.
Wow. Right.
And so it's quite strict that way. And
interesting.
Everything has its challenges, but I definitely prefer being able to kind of wing it.
Totally. Do you have much interaction with the Japanese production staff?
None at all. I've never met any of the Japanese counterparts, voice-wise, director-wise, writer-wise, anything.
Right.
Especially for Pokemon, working on it for so long, I haven't had any interaction with them. Sometimes people would come over when we were working on a video game, but we would meet them for a second. I would, at least. I don't know about the rest of the cast, but meet, a quick shake, hello. I go in the booth and then I leave. So there wasn't much interaction.
Interesting.
Unfortunately, I have to say.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I guess you're interpreting obviously not only another language but a cultural product, Right. So there's an English director then who is kind of running the show in this situation. I imagine they must be collaborating with Japan in some capacity or.
Well, as far as the 4 kids shows I worked on and Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, on, they definitely had some interaction. The product comes over, it gets translated, it gets adapted. When you have something as big as Pokemon, many people also say, okay, the script is fine. it was on television, like regular TV. So standards and practices weighed in on what could be shown and heard.
Of course.
And then, so all those many cooks in that kitchen.
Yeah.
With other things, the company gets it, they okay things, then the director is in the quote, in the booth with you and telling you, yeah, this is okay, this is not.
Right.
So it varies on whether you have a director, an engineer, and yourself, or the engineer is directing and engineering. It really all depends on the project.
Right. Interesting.
I really want to know about the experiences working in video game voiceover acting versus doing a series. I think it's pretty interesting to me because video games like pre-scored, you kind of do that before you see any of the product or anything like that, or do you get given a vague outline of the character or like what they look like or anything, or do you just kind of go in?
Totally blind.
Yeah.
It all really depends. I would say for Fire Emblem, for Heroes and Three Houses, I do get to see a picture of the character beforehand. And I get a little idea of who they are. And based on that, we figure out who the character is. So you get a little of that in the audition. And that's what you come in with.
Right.
And then we're able to tweak it in the room.
Right.
But you do not get to see what the whole thing is about. You sometimes can see the chunk of your scene with another person. And sometimes you just see your lines. So you're, again, really tapping into your imagination and creativity by figuring out what the scene is. How does your character feel? And what would they be saying? How are they reacting to the line? When you're doing all those reactions, you're just jumping or throwing things or getting hit. With video games, you have to do damage. You know, a small and then and then you know, all of that stuff where you're just kind of, so that's, okay, give us 3 in a row, 3 in a row, 3 in a row. And then long, short, all of that. So it's really, what are you imagining, getting hit with a stick or you know? Yeah, so you never really get the full story. In dubbing, you don't see the full picture. You don't see the full episode. You only see your lines. Any project I've worked on, I really don't know the full story until I've seen it later, if I see it.
Wow.
That's so interesting. It's such a creative job in that way because I feel like from my perspective, whenever I've done acting, it's like acting is reacting. To have to kind of go and react on your own and fill that in, it's somewhat freeing as well though. But it's a absolutely different skill set, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. Everything that we do is challenging. And so you have to accept it, adapt to it, and then just roll with it. I really like it. The same with audiobooks, at least you know what the full story is. A lot of mysteries, you know who did it. So you have to kind of figure out how to move that around so you don't give it away by giving, let's say, the who did it person a really bad voice. So it's obvious from the beginning.
Spoiler at the start.
Exactly. From the moment they step on screen. So it's all really challenging and great. I mean, to be an actor is a pretty wonderful thing. It certainly builds your empathy to be able to step into someone else's shoes and be them and feel what they feel and try to project something wonderful about them, even if they are a hateful character, to be able to show the humanity.
Yes.
It's incredible. And then guess what the whole story is that you are part of.
Did you have any idea when you started recording Pokemon that it would be the massive impactful hit that it is still to this day?
No, definitely not. I did not. I had only heard, first of all, we started in 1998. I don't even know if I had a computer at that time. So there's no way I would have been looking things up on the internet like we do now on our phones. There was a different world then. I knew about Pokemon. I'd seen something in the New York Times about it. I had no idea. They did say when we auditioned that it would be on TV. And we were like, yeah, okay, we'll see. And then it was 6 a.m. I got up, I put the tape in my VCR and I recorded it because I was saying, how long is this going to last? And it lasted for me 8 years. Amazing.
Crazy.
But I feel like the impact of it, I feel more now than I did then.
Right.
Because then I'm just going to work, recording, coming home. There was no realization at work that it was a hit, except that we had another season and then another season. All of that we found out towards the end of each season if we were renewed. Right. So this wasn't something that stepping into it, you knew it was going to go on forever. We didn't even know if we'd get the 52 episodes in. Wow. So it's really extraordinary. Yeah. But now going to conventions like Supernova, I get to talk to people that Pokemon especially, how it impacted them. Yeah. And that's when I realize how incredible this whole journey is for all of us, how connected we all are.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't think I can think of a franchise that's had more of an impact in my life and all of my friends who are around my age as well, and even kids now, because it is still ongoing. It's still
going, yeah.
Other than like Harry Potter, I reckon they're on the same level of like phenomenon.
Yeah.
And really, I noticed we were at Supernova, so I should say to our viewers, and that's where we saw Veronica's panel, and we were blown away with how generous she was and how lovely you were to everyone and all the questions, and we were fascinated, so we really wanted to interview you, so thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm thrilled.
But just seeing how much that just brought people together still, like people still love Pokemon, love the original series that you were on. That's pretty special, I think.
It really is amazing. And there's something in Pokemon like Harry Potter that everyone can identify with, whether it's the characters, their relationships, the relationships with the Pokemon, who your favorite Pokemon is, what you want to collect, all that information that you can learn, share with each other. It's a community.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons it's gone on so long. Absolutely. The stories are another reason. We can all relate to something in there.
Yeah, it's incredible. And you mentioned it sort of briefly before about how different it was in the 90s going in. And how much has the industry changed over the course of your career? I mean, the fact that you can record on your laptop in a hotel room. I mean, that's amazing change.
I think change is definitely the word. Adapting is another word for it. In the beginning in 1998, if you weren't there, you lost your job. If you were sick, you would be replaced.
Wow.
That has changed now that people have realized that they can work with you at home. I think there was a big thing really. Often producers are afraid you're going to steal the client or some kind of weird thing like that. So they don't want you to have any information on your own. Right. You just go into the studio, you do that, and you leave it. But I mean, what are you going to do with that stuff anyway? You're still going to, whether you work in a studio or at home, it's still all private, you know? Yes. But the idea that we can be anywhere, that we can open up even auditioning to people anywhere, that you can work with people anywhere, that's definitely changed. Having Pro Tools on my computer when it was only even before Pro Tools in a studio, that you could only access that type of thing when the machines were all so big that it took to record something, to make whatever it came out on, which was in those days, for me at least, the VHS tapes, DVDs then. Now you don't even have to put it on something. Yeah. So the equipment has changed. I don't know. I think still the love of work is the same, that people are really committing to giving their 100% and making the best thing they can. Absolutely. That has stayed the same. But I think it's harder to be disciplined at home. I don't know about you guys, but gosh, like working at home, I find I sit for an audiobook for easily 6 hours in a studio. We take 15 minutes to eat something, get back in. At home, I take 15 minutes and suddenly it's an hour and a half. You know? So I'm not as disciplined at home, and that really is terrible. But that's the reason that you want to go into a studio for sure. Absolutely. Be around other people. Well, and you find out more things that you want to watch. You find out more things to talk about. And that also infuses the work you do with more energy and positivity.
Absolutely. And I guess on that point, in the studio, acting with another actor, does that happen? Or did it used to? Has it changed in that respect? Or are you always on your own in the booth?
Right now, I'm always on my own. Okay. Before, it would happen sometimes. Right. I worked on a project called Astroblast, and 2 of us were in the studio in New York. And I think 3 or 4 other actors were in Massachusetts, in Boston. And they put that all together. For Ninja Turtles, we were all in the studio together. Wow. And Sue Blue directed from Los Angeles to us in New York. But for the most part, after that, I'm always alone. I hope it's not me.
There must be voice actors you've like done a million projects with but never met. Like that must be interesting as well. Like, we've worked on 8 titles together, but I don't know you.
And sometimes I don't even know who else is working on it. Yeah. With social media now, you can see with all the names printed on one post, you can, I didn't know that person was in this. And, it's exactly that. I have no idea. I work on Sailor Moon, and even all of those actors, I'm not quite sure who's in it and who's not.
Do you watch many of the shows that you make?
I don't actually, not on purpose. I used to watch a lot of Saturday mornings. So my daughter was born at the end of the first season of recording Pokemon. So I got to relive my Saturday morning cartoon watching, which I never really left behind. While she was growing up, we would always sit down and watch things. Some things I would make her watch that I was in, and other things we would watch that I wasn't in. But definitely for Pokemon, we watched that all the time. Ninja Turtles, she was little, so that was a little too violent. But Winx Club, we always watch that. Yeah. Fighting foodons, some really great stuff. Yeah.
And what's coming up for you at the moment? What are you working on next and at the moment?
So a lot of projects that I have, I don't actually know the title of.
Sure.
And especially now, I get the email to say, can you come in to work on this with a fake title on it? And I don't even know what it is. So I don't know if I know what I'm working on, but I have been doing a lot of anime recently.
Right.
And those titles are all really long. Someone brought to Supernova 4 things that I did. Land of Leaddale is one that recently came out. That's a short title. So I'm the... What? You mean I'm the 8th son of the something? So there's some, like, really, I can't even remember that because I write 8th son in my diary and I don't know what the full title is. Or, so what? I'm a spider. I'm a spider, so what? All these crazy things. So I kind of forget what it is until it comes out and someone brings it up because I just work away. So I'm doing some other video game stuff and a lot of audiobooks right now too.
Fantastic.
So I'm busy. I post stuff on social media. So that helps me to remember what I'm working on.
When was your first convention and how was that experience for you when you got there and realized there were these, a massive fan base?
So I had been going to some smaller shows in New York, but in 2002, I was in Auckland and Sydney. So I was here 20 years ago for Pokemon related.
Wow.
And then there was a very long line of all these tiny children. And now, 20 years later, there's a very long line of not so tiny children that I have to stand on my toes to take a picture with because everyone's so much taller than I am. So it has been an incredible experience for me to actually know people, to see them when they were 10, see them when they graduated from university, to see them with their own children.
Yeah.
I have nothing in my life other than my actual family that is close to this euphoric feeling of really knowing how connected we all are and that we all come together as Pokemon fans and we forge a new path ahead as friends, as family. And it's incredibly special to me. I don't even fully have the words to express it, but to be here on the 20th anniversary of Supernova and my 20th anniversary of leaving the United States for this giant unknown. It's pretty cool.
It's so cool.
It's pretty extraordinary. Really.
Yeah, I know. It really moves me to tears all the time.
Yeah.
It's just, excuse me, it's just incredible.
No. It really is. The amount of questions which opened at Supernova of, oh, Veronica, thanks for the childhood.
I know.
That's
and everybody has that with different shows or things that they've kind of floated on through times of bliss and times of trouble. And to be one of those rafts that people have floated upon is an incredible honor. It's part of my childhood in a sense too, because I've grown up along with everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, as a podcast, it's called Gateway to Anime. I think we have you to blame for the reason why we're here. Thanks for the niche podcast.
Yeah.
But no, it's seriously like we had a thing called Cheese TV, which I'm sure people have told you about in the past in Australia, which Pokemon aired on, and then Dragonball.
Right.
All of that stuff. Used to be late for school every day just to watch Pokemon, just to see Ash become a Pokemon master, which still the biggest twist.
I know.
Still upsets me to this day.
But really, I mean, none of us ever achieve master status because you constantly are working away at your goals, realizing that the path goes this way, not straight. And as it turns, you pick up others along the way and help them out. They help you out. And then you just keep going. So once you kind of achieve that one goal, to win a badge, then you set another goal. So really, none of us will become a master till the bitter, bitter end. And hopefully that will be in a long, long time. Yes, but, it's a great story for that. And we are angry that he doesn't win. And we are happy that he wins. And that is part of us.
Yeah.
So it's pretty incredible.
Oh, it taught us so much. And I was thinking about, like saving Butterfree, all that stuff. Like Ash really was a great moral compass for a lot of people, I think, and a very passionate character. It must have been really great to be able to, bring that to a lot of people's lives, bring it to life.
And I learned a lot about the power of positivity because of that. I think I took that for granted before, but it really weighs into everything we do. Helping others weighs into everything we do. We are only as strong as the weakest link. And that is, or as the weakest person among us. or Pokemon Among Us, or, you can't get anywhere on your own. And I think during the pandemic, we've seen that we are alone in our homes, but we aren't alone because you become much more aware of your community and how much you need to reach out, how much all of us kind of rejiggered what we do to be able to include others, at least virtually, until we were able to be back together again.
Absolutely.
But solo, you can't really achieve that much.
No.
And you don't learn anything, So even for this, and I do think it's important to say for those people who do feel alone, really alone, that we are all here for you, that no matter what, we must reach out and connect. And no one should ever feel that they don't have someone to connect to. Because I think, look at us here today, we care.
Yeah, absolutely. And are all built around, a shared love of something.
Of something, yeah.
And it's really wonderful. And, Sailor Moon as well, of course, you were a Sailor Pluto.
No, I wasn't in your 90s Sailor Moon, just so you know. I'm in the recent one. I wasn't the raft you buoyed yourself on back then. but I'm part of that raft now.
But I am watching this current raft, so I'm more familiar actually with this version. So it's cool.
Yeah, it is really neat. And they're bringing back the original storylines. And I think especially while we are so much more aware of inclusivity now and really honoring that and paying more attention to it, Sailor Moon has stepped up. I love the original voices. So I'm very sad that the original voices didn't redo the original episodes. But the fact that Viz has said, this is important, let's redo this, I think there's something wonderful about that. So I'm thrilled to be part of it. Sailor Pluto's way out, out there. She's like the Doctor Who of the whole thing. And then she pops in her kind of limited emotional way to take care of those she loves. And it's pretty cool to play her.
Absolutely.
Do you find yourself ever typecast, or is there something you do a lot in terms of voice acting? Like people go like, oh, I'll get Veronica to do this kind of thing. Is there something you find yourself kind of doing a lot of?
Yeah, maybe people will bring me in. I do a lot of English as a second language, which is audio workbooks that teach people in other countries how to speak English. And so for those, my career is so weird and like a strange quilt of things. But for those, I'm often brought in to do children's voices, accents, all the outlying things, as well as the regular voice. But in cartoons, I think a lot of boy voices, I don't know that I'm that typecast. Really. But I always hope not to be. Because you guys, you want to do everything. Absolutely. You want to be asked to and be able to do everything that's in your kind of talent toolbox.
Yes, well, looking at your IMDb, I was going, wow, she is got some versatility, honestly. Because I was like, often when you're watching, particularly when you're doing a character as iconic as Ash, there's things I've definitely watched you and have not picked up that it's the same voice actor.
Oh, that's so nice of you. My daughter can tell everything. She's like, I know that's you. So other people too actually have told me that online. I already knew it was you, which I love. Totally. People can really train their ear. It's amazing what you can hear when you're listening. It's amazing what you can feel when you're listening.
Absolutely.
As a side note.
What's been something which really pushed you outside of your comfort zone and challenged you as a voice actor? Was something you were like, wow, I've never done anything like this before?
I'm not sure character-wise if there has been, but certainly we were recording Pokemon when, not at the exact moment, but when September 11th happened. And living in New York City, things really were unknown. And to be able to figure out when we could leave our apartment because the air was so bad where we lived, and to be able to figure out when to have my daughter go back to school and I go back to work and kind of figure out how to get out of that. Same with COVID, how to figure out when it's safe to leave and know that you're not harming someone else by giving them a virus or, like that. I think these times have been the most challenging of how to continue to be open-hearted so you can bring your 100% to your work, but at the same time be protective of yourself and others. So I think that those two times have been my biggest challenges, really.
Interesting. Well, it's so good to have you back, able to travel and see all the fans and speak to us.
Yeah.
And we really, really
appreciate
you coming in.
Thank you so
much
much.
Guys, this is Amazing. We're here in Sydney. We're together. We're together in a room. I mean, we're getting back to it.
That's it.
I'm so proud of you both, to all of you two, with all of the work that you're doing, the positivity you bring to everything, and how I'm not sure that we got there in this interview, but the interviews that I've seen that you've done have been so interesting, and I've learned so much from it. So thank you. Thank you for pushing through the dark times to bring some light.
Well, thank you
for everything that you've done and will continue to do.
Yeah, we'll meet up again in a year and see how it's going.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you all so much, Veronica. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you all next time. If you want to find out more about Veronica, you can follow her on social media, and you can head to her website, veronicataylor.net. If you enjoyed this chat, we have a few other interview episodes you can listen to. In episode 39, we interviewed producer, writer, director, YouTube personality, and actor Adi Shankar.
We need a word to describe adult animated content to explain to those people that, okay, well, we're not making a cartoon and we're not making porn.
And in episode 23, we interviewed anime and video game composer Kevin Penkin. If you are a fan of Pokemon or Sailor Moon, you can listen to our 2 episodes which focus on them specifically with our friend and collaborator Ross Chisari. We speak about Sailor Moon amongst other shows in our Magical Girl anime episode, which is episode 40.
The best thing about Sailor Moon wasn't even the plot or the characters, it was the sound effects. So when she transforms and she's like... it's just like...
And we did our Pokemon deep dive with Ross in episode 21. If you're enjoying our content, please feel free to head over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/gateway to anime. Every little bit helps, and we really appreciate any support you might be able to give us. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, or you can check out our website at gatewaytoanime.com.
Hey, Pikachu, it's time to hang out with Gateway to Anime. Gotta catch 'em all.
Thank you so much. We love it.
It seriously is a really good party voice because, like talking like this is pretty fun. Ash is so, I don't know, it's a whole other being. Yeah. You guys, I really am so proud of you. I just think you're doing so much great work. It's so nice to be around you. I just can't thank you enough.
It's definitely up.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Let's take some photo so I can remember that I was here.